Tonight's story is one that stayed with me long after I finished researching it. It's a case that didn't receive the attention it deserved. Overlooked, misunderstood, and slowly forgotten over time. There are no graphic images or explicit footage in this video. However, some details may be emotionally disturbing. So please take care while watching. Viewer discretion is advised. If you're new to this channel, welcome to Justice Files. This is where we uncover stories that others ignore, cases that deserve to be heard, remembered, and understood. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Now, take a deep breath. Let's get into the story. A man stood up in court, looked directly at the jury, and said, "I did it." And then 5 seconds later, he accused someone else of pulling the trigger. The courtroom didn't just go silent. It stopped. This is the story of a murder trial that everyone thought was already decided. The evidence looked airtight. The motive was obvious. The suspect barely defended himself. But when he finally spoke, he didn't just confess. He shattered the entire case. And what came out next exposed something far bigger than a single killing. It was a rainy Thursday night when 42-year-old Evan Rowe was found dead in his office. One gunshot wound to the chest. He was seated behind his desk. No sign of forced entry. No overturned furniture. No defensive wounds. It looked deliberate. Personal. Evan wasn't just any businessman, he co-owned a rapidly growing logistics company with his partner, Daniel Kincaid. They had built it from nothing. Late nights. Empty bank accounts. Big ambition. But in the months before Evan's death, the partnership fractured. Arguments spilled into hallways. Employees overheard shouting matches about money and control. Lawyers were quietly consulted. So when Evan was murdered, suspicion didn't wander. It landed squarely on Daniel. Police built their case quickly. Daniel's fingerprints were in the office. His car was seen near the building that night. A gun registered in his name matched the caliber of the bullet. He admitted being there earlier. He denied killing Evan. But here's the thing. Daniel didn't act like an innocent man. He didn't cry. Didn't lash out. Didn't beg. In court, he sat still. Pale, quiet. Almost resigned. If you were facing life in prison for something you didn't do, would you look that calm? Or would you fight harder? By the time closing arguments began, most people had already decided. The prosecutor delivered a clean, simple narrative. 2 partners. A financial dispute. One man eliminated the other. She pointed directly at Daniel and said, "The person who pulled the trigger is sitting right there." The defense tried to chip away at the edges. The fingerprint was old. The car sighting was unreliable. The weapon was never recovered. But it felt thin. Then came the moment that changed everything. The judge asked Daniel if he wished to testify. For 6 months, he had barely spoken. Now he stood. His voice was quiet. "I need to say something." The courtroom leaned forward. Daniel looked at the jury. Then at Evan's widow. Then he said, "I did it." Gasps. A pen hit the floor. The prosecutor froze mid-step. And then Daniel continued. "I killed Evan Rowe, but not the way you think." Confusion replaced shock. "I didn't pull the trigger." Silence. You could hear the air conditioning. Then he said a name. Mark Holloway. Mark wasn't some stranger. He was Evan's best friend. He had testified against Daniel. And he was the brother-in-law of the lead detective. The room erupted. Mark stood so quickly his chair fell backward. That's a lie. Daniel didn't blink. You were the one who pulled the trigger. And then he added something even worse. And I can prove it. After court adjourned, Daniel told his attorney about a storage unit. Locker 47. Inside was a voice recorder. Daniel had secretly recorded conversations after discovering strange financial activity in the company. That night, during the confrontation, the recorder was still running. On the audio, Mark's voice could be heard. Cold. Controlled. At one point saying, "You should have let this go. Now I had to fix it." It wasn't a clean confession. But it cracked the narrative. Then came the financial records. Large transfers from the company. Offshore accounts. One of them registered to Mark Holloway. But as investigators dug deeper, something unexpected surfaced. The money didn't stop with Mark. It flowed through a shell consulting firm. Owned by a man named Lucas Renner. A financial broker known to federal authorities. Untouchable. Until now. Daniel finally revealed why he confessed publicly. Months before the murder, Lucas Renner approached him. Offered him a choice. Join the laundering operation. Or be destroyed. Daniel refused. Evan didn't. The company became a laundering channel. Daniel planned to expose it. Mark handled the confrontation. And when the gun went off, Daniel understood something terrifying. The investigation would never be neutral. The lead detective was family to Mark. The financial trails could be buried. If Daniel quietly fought the case, Lucas would vanish. So Daniel detonated the courtroom. He confessed to force the system to stop. To look wider. To freeze. And it worked. Federal authorities stepped in. Lucas Renner was arrested weeks later. Mark, under mounting evidence, admitted firing the gun. He claimed it was panic. But the money trail told another story. This wasn't rage. It was protection. Mark Holloway was convicted of murder. Lucas Renner faced federal charges for financial crimes. Daniel Kincaid was sentenced as well. Not for pulling the trigger. But for conspiracy, obstruction, and his role in setting the confrontation in motion. 7 years. Not innocent. Not a monster. Something complicated. Before sentencing, Daniel addressed the court. Sometimes the truth costs more than a lie. But it's the only thing that lasts. Years later. The company no longer exists. The office building stands empty. And occasionally, Daniel's former attorney drives past it. She remembers the moment the courtroom froze. Because for a brief second, the truth stopped the room. Here's the uncomfortable question. If Daniel had stayed silent, if he had fought quietly, would the real network have ever been uncovered? Or would the wrong man have gone to prison while the architects walked free? Let me know what you think. Was Daniel brave? Reckless? Both? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next strange, dark, and mysterious story told in story format.